What is up, podcast? What is up, Twitch? What is up, everybody? Early in the morning. Let's make sure things are working. It is early, so I got to make sure things are actually working the way they are supposed to. It is early morning here in California. Make sure you check it out. Check it out. Check it out. Let's see. Yeah, manage your mobile stream. Boom. Boom. Yeah, we are streaming. I see it. Let me see if the vocals are coming out. I haven't got Ramon in the background yet, so. Let me see. Check. Yeah, you guys should be hearing me live on the stream. Let's see. Yeah. Yep, exactly. Perfect. See that everything is working this morning. Fantastic. Great to see you guys here at the Twitch studio where we have some killer conversations, all in the theme of passion. And as always, we got a killer guest this morning. It's going to be an awesome day. I can already see it. First of all, before I get too crazy into it, I want to thank my sponsors, all of my Patreon family supporters at the $15 level. They are getting all the background pictures, photos, videos, all the backstage stuff. They're getting all that for $5 level. $15 level, they're asking me questions. They're sending me the questions that they want to ask in the next podcast that's coming up. They're using that tier to actually write questions to me and give me some questions to ask the future guest. And then at the $35 level, they're actually sometimes in the stream with me in the Twitch sphere. So it's pretty awesome to have that as well. And so I want to thank those guys, number one. So before we get, let's see, I want to make sure there's no comments. Perfect. Awesome. Fantastic. Nothing there. Fantastic. All right. My guest, again, another killer guest here on the Raceplace Podcast Network. My guest is a teacher from England. I believe it's the Teton Hall Wood School there in England. Please help me welcome Mr. Adam Millichip. What is up, Adam?
Hello. Good morning. I'm very well. Thank you. How are you?
Good, man. What is it, around 2 o'clock there in England?
It is 2 p.m. I appreciate you coming on early, so thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. Now I will be perfectly ready and ready to go. Once the kids get ready for school, I'll just look towards the door and my daughter will tell me it's time to go. So I'll be ready for them this time. Usually I'm like groggy and like trying to get up, getting my coffee, but I'm ready.
All nicely prepared for your Friday morning.
Yes, sir. Fantastic, man. Thanks for coming on. Adam, you are a teacher from that's your name, Madam Millichip. I'm getting it backwards. But Teton Hall Wood School in the UK, is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, it's a school for autistic children and young adults.
Oh, beautiful. So the whole school is specifically made for autistic children and adults?
It is, yeah. We have around 150 students here, ranging from 4 to 19 years old. And yeah, every single student has a diagnosis of autism. So it's a very unique school, very different school to your mainstream schools. So it's a wonderful school and I can't speak highly enough of it.
That's awesome. So the kids are from 4 to 19 years old?
Yes, yeah, they are. Yeah. So they stay with us for all their childhood and then they'll move on into maybe a college or a university, into further education. So yeah, they're with us for a long time and you see the children progress and grow. So it's fantastic to see the child come to us at a young age and then develop as they get older through the teenage years and leave us with hopefully as much independence as possible.
Wow, that's incredible. Were you teaching anywhere before or is this your first teaching gig?
So no, it's my second. So I previously taught in another special needs school. It wasn't for autistic children. It was for a range of special needs: Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, physical difficulties, autism. But yeah, this school I've moved to 2 years ago is just for autistic children.
Oh, wow. So you've been there 2 years.
Yeah. So I've been teaching for 10 years. So I was at my previous school for obviously 8 years and now I'm here for 2. So this is just starting my third year a few weeks ago.
That's an amazing, man. That's an amazing thing, man. So you have a heart for basically children with discipline, with autistic children, people with disabilities. Is that kind of where your heart's at?
Yeah, definitely. It's for my parents. I think my parents both retired now, but they worked with children with mental health problems and disabilities as well. So I think it's in the family, and my parents are both very passionate about sort of special needs and disabilities and children. So yeah, it was always, I think, going to be my career, something with children anyway, whether that was through teaching or sports or something like that. So yeah, it's definitely a passion of mine. It's a passion in my family. My brother-in-law is autistic as well, so it's something that's very close to my heart, and something I'm always around, and I'm very passionate about giving these children and young adults opportunities to develop and gain lots of skills.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, they it's hard enough to teach kids, especially small ones. And then as they get older, there's other challenges as well. But you're teaching, disabled children, the development process could be, it could be a little bit slower, or in some senses with autistic children, there's parts of their mental capacity that's actually more enhanced. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. So it can be very challenging. It can be difficult at times. There's obviously sometimes communication barriers and behavior issues and things like that can get in the way of learning, and things you have to kind of overcome and think of strategies to support that child's communication, think of strategies to support their behavior. And yeah, you're right. So some autistic individuals are amazingly bright and clever at maybe maths or numeracy, English, science. So yeah, sometimes you get an autistic individual who is unbelievably clever and just will recall facts from 20 years ago and recall,
Wow.
I don't know, amazing mathematical equations and sums. So yeah, it's a huge spectrum of autism. It goes from kind of really low functioning students who really struggle to communicate and have to find ways of communicating to your really high functioning who are able to do these incredible, amazing things that are far beyond me.
Oh yeah, it's crazy, and they focus on. It's weird, or interesting that they focus on that one thing, and they're really like that thing is like sharp as a knife. It's incredible. That's crazy. So before the podcast comes in, TWS Sports Podcast is the name of the podcast, by the way. Adam is the creator of that. Before the podcast comes in, you go there, you're teaching. What are you teaching? Is it math? Is it all the skill? What was your specific thing? When you came to teach there, what were you teaching?
So you teach everything. So you teach your maths, your English, your science, geography, history. So we cover a wide range of the whole curriculum. My specialism is PE, but as a class teacher, you cover all the subjects, and obviously the subjects are brought down a lot. So maybe like a 10-year-old might be working at a 4-year-old level. So you bring the lesson right down to their ability level and their communication level. And lessons are usually a lot shorter. So whereas in a mainstream school, you might have a hour-long math lesson. These are maybe 20 minutes or 15-minute lessons, so short, sharp learning. Lots of sensory breaks. Lots of our students need sensory breaks. So we give them time to regulate their senses and bring their behavior maybe back down to a level where they're able to learn and able to function in life. So it's very different to your mainstream school. It takes a while as a teacher to adapt and familiarize yourself with a different way of teaching, but once you get a good understanding of it, it's very, very empowering. It's very motivating. It's very, you get a lot of satisfaction from teaching children.
That's really cool. I see what you're saying. So most teachers, obviously, they go to school to be trained as a teacher, and they understand how to teach math and how to teach English and how to teach the different subjects, history and whatnot. But there's a buffer there, right? When they first start out, when you go to a regular school, it's just boom, use my training, I'm good. When you go to a school like yours, which is a specialized school for disabled children or autistic children, there's going to be a kind of a buffer there for the new teacher, right? You're going to have to learn how to adjust, how to pivot when different things happen. Do you think that for you, being that you had your parents were teaching disabled children, autistic children, that you had that kind of advantage in a sense, because you kind of had that a little bit of experience coming into the game, right?
Yeah, definitely. I had that small amount of knowledge of autism and disabilities, but when you kind of get in the classroom and you're in charge of 10 students and teaching assistants and support staff, it's a very different ball game. I remember the first few months of teaching, I just didn't really know what I was doing. It was just
Oh, wow.
kind of,
So even for you.
you learn on the day, and every day is different. So you might plan a fantastic lesson, and that lesson never goes how it should go in your head anyway, because something might happen. There's obviously some of the students do have quite challenging behaviour,
Right.
or so we need some sensory breaks. So it can be very challenging, but I find it a lot more rewarding. So getting that student to recognize a shape or count to 10 I find much more satisfying than maybe teaching a mainstream student to do an equation or something that whatever they do. Getting our students to do the basic skills. So some of our students just tying their shoelaces, eating with a knife and fork, walking independently to the toilet. So sometimes they can be that basic, and getting them children to do them independent skills, which actually will really, really help them in life, really help them at home, is a lot more beneficial. And you definitely go home feeling very satisfied and pleased with your day's work. Sometimes, not always, sometimes you go home maybe crying or upset because it's a very tough day, but
Stress, right?
definitely the positives outweigh the negatives.
That's amazing, man. Yeah. It's cool. Like even yourself, you said, you still needed that kind of buffer. You needed that, even if it doesn't matter whether they're artistic, disabled or not, even regular students, when you're a teacher, you could go in there with the lesson plan and it goes out the door because they act crazy. Like my son, he's 8 years old, but you never know from day to day what kind of letter I'm going to get from the teacher. It could be smiley faces, or it could be like sad faces with why would this kid like jump up in the middle of my lesson and start screaming crazy stuff, and he's just very good. So I can imagine it's crazy. There's not enough, gloating over our attention that we give our teachers. Like you guys are like heroes.
Well, thank you. And especially like the mainstream schools, I don't know what it's like in America, but we might have 30, 35, 40 students in a class with a teacher, maybe a teaching assistant. And it's an impossible job to cater for all 30 students. Imagine 35-year-olds running around your classroom. It's difficult. It's a very difficult, very stressful job to be in. You've got a lot of paperwork, a lot of lesson plans, reports, meetings with parents. It is a very stressful job. It is very, very difficult, and I think it's only going to get more challenging and more difficult with more students coming into schools, funding being cut massively by the government. It's a very difficult time. It's a very rewarding job, but it is a very, very stressful job as well.
It's crazy. It does seem similar as you're talking about the school, as you're talking about 35 children. It is very similar to America. There's the classrooms are full like crazy. It's hard to get to every single student. You have to teach all the subjects. You have to teach math. You have to teach science. You have to teach English and reading and everything. But your side is even much more stressful because I like what you do. You teach them not only the main subjects, but you teach them life skills because you're worried about how they're going to be able to survive in the world, being with the challenges that they have as a disabled student or autistic student. They need to know the tie of shoes. They need to know how to cross the street correctly. Simple things that we take for granted. These are the things you're teaching them, and that teacher has to have a heart for this, has to really love this. And I think you do. I think you have a passion for students, period, and then disabled students as well. And you have a heart for this. I can see it all the way through.
Yeah, definitely. So it's the only job I've ever done. So I came straight out of university or college and straight into teaching. And you're right, it's teaching the student when they leave us at the age of 18 to be as independent as possible. Because some of our students are quite severely autistic. So just feeding themselves, getting changed, using the toilet appropriately, putting their clothes on, showering, cleaning their teeth, things like this. Some of our students find really, really difficult, and they're the skills that we focus on because they're the skills that are going to help them be independent in life. They're the skills that are going to help the parents when they're getting ready in the morning, getting their child ready for school. So yeah, they're the skills we focus on a lot. Yes, we do the maths and the English, but yeah, a lot of our focus is on independence and making that child as independent as possible.
That's huge, man. That's huge. It's forward thinking. I love that. And so that part of it, and I'm glad I didn't rush through that part. The hard part of teaching kids all the things that they should be learning in school, number one, but then also teaching them life skills so that they can survive in the world. But then Adam has another idea. He says, I'm going to create a podcast. And I'm going to create a podcast with not just kids, but autistic children. Adam, what were you thinking, my friend?
Well, it all started during lockdown, so during COVID, when we were all locked in our houses, and I started listening to a few more podcasts myself. And we were doing remote teaching the children online, which was just a nightmare, really, really difficult. And then when we returned to school, I was listening to podcasts and thinking, actually, this is something that our students could do, because being autistic, stereotypically autistic people find social interaction quite difficult, but podcasting stops that, because usually you just on Zoom or Twitch or something, and you can't really interact with the person. It's a very structured conversation. The students have questions, and it's a very controlled interview. So it reduces that kind of social anxiety. So I thought our students might be able to do something like this. So I spoke to our principal, and she was bang up for the idea straight away. And
she was down with it.
100% straight away.
That's cool.
About 2 minutes of chatting to her, which was brilliant. And to get her on board immediately was fantastic. And we thought we would set up a podcast for our more able students who can communicate but struggle in social situations, struggle to hold a conversation. We thought what a great way it would be for them to develop these skills. So what we thought we would, lots of our students have passion for sport. I have a big passion for sport. So we thought, why not focus it on sports?
Yeah, England's big on sports.
Definitely. Lots of soccer and rugby and tennis and golf.
Nice.
So that was when it was born. It was born kind of early last year, and it's just gone from strength to strength. It's been phenomenal how quick it's grown and the things that we have achieved.
That's crazy, man. I mean, doing a podcast is daunting enough. The scheduling, the talking. First of all, I think I'm glad that I heard you say that this podcasting reduces anxiety, social anxiety, because I think that's what it does if you came here, Adam, and we were having a conversation or we met for the first one, I would be socially like inept and like very awkward. But when I get on podcasts, I'm amazing. So I think this stuff helps. This stuff helps. It's helping me. Man, it's awesome. So, but yeah, it's a daunting task to do a podcast. You're talking to people, you're scheduling with people, you've got the technical aspect, you got all the different things of this. But you decide to do this it's not easy to do a podcast. You decide to do this with autistic children. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it is. And from when I first spoke to students, they had never heard of a podcast. They've never listened to a podcast. So I think going into it, they were a little unsure as well. Like, we did a few practice runs. We interviewed my brother and some random teachers just to practice the concept of the podcast and asking questions.
Cool.
And then we just went for it. We found our first guest. So all of our guests are famous sportsmen and women from around the world. We've been lucky to speak to people from the UK, Australia, America, throughout Europe. So it's quickly grown bigger and bigger. But back in the start, it was very scripted to start off with. A lot of the questions were kind of wrote by myself, and I would ask a lot of the questions. But then after kind of 4 or 5 episodes, I kind of went out the way a little bit, and the students kind of took over. And the students, now we're 50 episodes in, maybe 55 episodes in.
What? Now you guys are about right where I'm at, like 57, something like that. That's cool.
But now I don't do anything really. I kind of facilitate it, but the students come with the questions. The students interview the guest completely. I just sit off camera and watch. So from episode 1, where it was probably 95% me, it's now 95% the children, which is exactly how it should be.
No way.
So the students are fantastic, cool. and they absolutely love it. They keep coming to me most days saying, "Oh, Adam, when's our next guest? When's our next interview? When's our next podcast?" So
they're hustling. I like that.
They love it.
That's amazing. Did you ever think, like, I don't know if this is going to work? I mean, podcasting is hard in itself. Podcasting with kids is hard, but podcasting with autistic children, were there any extra challenges that you discovered along the way that you would? I mean, it sounds like they're rocking and rolling, but were there any early on some challenges that you had to deal with?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think conversation was difficult to start with. Like when you ask a question and the guest gives an answer, sometimes you might have a follow-up question, or you just naturally flow. The conversation flows and flows and flows. They still struggle with it. Sometimes, yeah. They still struggle with that. So sometimes it's very scripted still. So they'll ask a question, the guest will give an answer, and I'm thinking, it's a really good follow-up question you can ask. But sometimes they struggle to go kind of off script and continue the conversation. They're getting a lot better at it, and at the start they were very much like question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, and now the conversation flows a lot better. They're a lot better at going off script and kind of going wherever the conversation goes with the guest. I think that was the main one. The main one was the communication. So it was very, very robotic to start off with.
Sure.
And now it's a lot more casual, a lot more free flowing. Sometimes the students go completely off script and will ask the most random questions, which is brilliant, which makes it more funny, more unique. But yeah, I think the main challenge, and it is still the main challenge at times, is the communication. But that's what we're doing it for. That's the reason we set up the podcast, to improve their communication. And it's definitely working. So hopefully by this time next year, their communication skills will be even better.
Hopefully all of our communication skills will be better. I mean, everything you talked about is the same thing I deal with, the same thing everybody deals with. Keeping the flow of the show going, it's very difficult, and you have to be ready to connect the dots. I think they're going to get better and better at it. The hard part is also one of the. I don't know if you guys have the same situation. Like, you never know. Like, Adam speaks really well, so I can talk to Adam. We're having a great conversation here. We've been going almost 30 minutes. We can go back and forth all day long. It's not a problem. But you get a guest that may not talk so much, might be quiet. You kind of have to pull it out of them. So that's kind of our job, right? To kind of pull the story out of them. So that's probably something that they're kind of learning as well too, right?
Definitely, and it's something that we struggled with early on. I won't name names. There was a guest that we haven't aired because it was just awful. It was really challenging. They gave like 1-2 word answers. It was over in about 10 minutes. It was really, really, really difficult. So yeah, sometimes it happens. That's the only time it has happened. But yeah, sometimes just trying to get that more information from the guest, or sometimes you can clearly see that they're busy or talking to people off screen and not really interested.
Man, too busy, huh?
So yeah, sometimes it's a bit difficult. That interview in particular was like pulling teeth. It was very, very difficult.
Oh man.
But yeah, it happens, but thankfully not too much.
It is rare. It is rare. Most people want to talk to you. Most people want to tell you their story, but yeah, you get that rare person where you're like pulling teeth, like trying to get that answer out of them. Want to say good morning to Crystal Glitterbug. What's up, Crystal Glitterbug? Thanks for joining the Twitch stream. We are live here with Adam Millichip. If you're just joining us, Adam Millichip is a teacher from the UK, a autistic special needs school there in the UK. Adam Millichip decided, for some crazy reason, to create a podcast with all autistic children, and they are doing an amazing job. Not only that, they are squashing the competition. We're talking about, you guys now have over 57 episodes. You guys are doing it just like me. A lot of episodes. Adam, are these episodes on Spotify and Apple iTunes? Is that where you find it?
Yeah, so we're available on every mainstream kind of podcast site. So just search TWS Sports Podcast, and yeah, we're all over social media. So join us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. So yeah, we're everywhere.
That's awesome. You have won the Wolverhampton City Sports Award. What is that?
So yeah, we've won a few. So the city that our school is in is called Wolverhampton, and
Nice.
every year they have a sports awards, and we won. I think it was the Trailblazer Sports Award for the best or the most unique way of teaching children, or something like that. But yeah, but we also won a Global Sports Podcast Award back in March, which was a Global Sports Podcast Award for the best equality sports podcast in the world.
What?
So yeah,
Global Sports Award?
We did. We beat off competition from the BBC, which is a huge network here in Britain.
That shows that BBC is over here too. They show it on our TV, our cable network. That's crazy. That's awesome, man.
The BBC entered a sports podcast into our category, and we had one from the Olympics and other sports podcasts. But yeah, we managed to win. So we are officially the best social equality sports podcast in the world, which was an incredible achievement, one that we never, ever thought would happen. So it was voted for by the public, and we received the most votes. So it was incredible. Sadly, due to COVID, it was a virtual ceremony, because usually it's in the O2, which is a big kind of theatre in London.
Oh, nice. So you guys would have went to London.
Well, sadly, it was due to COVID. It was virtual. So
oh man,
I know, but we still won. We still got the honour. So it was an incredible achievement. So yeah.
Well, this year or next year, you'll go over there to London and get the award in person with all the kids.
Hopefully we can win it again. Why not?
That's awesome, man. Social Equality Sportscast Award globally. That is incredible, my brother. That is incredible. How do you get these? I mean, you have, like you were saying, we alluded to it a little earlier. We talked about it very shortly earlier, that you have legends. Like, guys, I'm not talking about TWS Sports, and even in the name is awesome, TWS Sports Podcast. You already think it's big, but then they get big guests, like legends of sports. We're not talking about just the little league guy down the street. We're talking about legends of soccer, legends of rugby, legends of all the sports. You guys are getting them, right, Adam?
We are, and it's amazing how we are. So it started off, I knew a few local football or soccer players. I was just lucky to be friends with a few people who knew a few people. So it started off with a few kind of local soccer players, and then it very quickly grew and grew and grew. And the power of social media is incredible. So it's I spend a lot of my time on social media, messaging people and trying to get hold of people's agents. And yeah, and the word of mouth. So we've managed to get a few footballers on who would then put it on their Instagram, on their Twitter, and then more people see it, and it'll grow and grow and grow. And yeah, luckily we've had some incredible guests. So you mentioned we've had some huge soccer players from England who have played for England and won the Premier League. We've had a lot of cricketers from England and Australia. We had Kurt Angle, WWE superstar Kurt Angle.
Kurt Angle? No. Holy. Oh, man. I can't wait till Ramon sees this freaking podcast. Kurt Angle, the legendary WWE superstar. You guys had him on the show?
We did. It's right next. When was he on? He was on season 3. So we're on season 5 now. So he was on the end of season 3.
Season 3. I'm gonna go back and listen to that. Kurt Angle, my man.
So we were chatting all about his career and WrestleMania moments and his time in the WWE and the Undertaker and the Rock and Stone Cold. And back when, I used to, not so much now, but I used to love wrestling sort of in the Attitude Era in the late 90s, early 2000s. So to chat about that and chat about everything that his career has, and it was incredible. One of my favorite. I was a huge wrestling fan when I was younger, so the chat to him was just incredible.
Oh man, I used to listen to wrestling. I used to watch. I'll tell you how. Well, this will give you an idea of my age. I used to watch wrestling when it was Hulk Hogan, the Junkyard Dog, the Animal Steel, the Dragon, all that stuff. That's
Yeah,
when I used to listen to. But the Attitude era is a huge era in wrestling history. That's a big era.
yeah, it's
That's
definitely. I think it's probably, well, in my opinion, the best era of that late '90s, early
yeah.
2000s when you had the likes of Undertaker, The Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H, Hulk
Yep.
Hogan was still there, wasn't he? And all these amazing wrestlers, and Kurt Angle as well. So yeah, it was incredible to chat to him. And yeah, it was definitely one of my favorite podcasts so far.
Man, if you're just joining us, we're with Adam Millichip, teacher from the UK. His school specializes in autistic children, and Adam decided to make a podcast, not just any podcast, a podcast that interviews legends of sports, legends of soccer, legends of cricket. For the Americans in the stream, Adam, tell people what cricket is.
So cricket, probably the sport is closest to would be baseball. So
Yeah.
yeah, you have a pitcher or bowler who would bowl the ball at a batsman, and who would hit the ball, and instead of running around in a diamond, they run in a straight line back and forth and get runs. So yeah, it's most likely baseball. The sport is closest to. But yeah, it's very big over here in England. We have huge games against Australia and India and Sri Lanka and Pakistan. So it's just here in England. We've just finished our summer, so we've just had a whole summer of cricket.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's a very big sport over here. Probably one of the top three. Probably football or soccer, rugby, and cricket are our three main sports. So yeah, we have lots of cricketers, lots of rugby players, boxers. We're speaking to Anthony Joshua in a few weeks.
Anthony Joshua,
former heavyweight,
former heavyweight, yeah.
Former heavyweight champion of the world. So he recently fought.
When I was talking to Phil, he was like, "These guys get on the big stars on their show," and I was like, "Okay." I mean, I was blown away already because of the cricket guys he was mentioning, and I saw this. I could look these guys up, and they're like superstars and they're legendary. Some of them go way back, and then the football guys, which is soccer in England, football guys that you get. I didn't expect to hear the word Kurt Angle come out of your mouth. I didn't expect to hear real heavyweight champion Anthony Joshua was on your show. This is incredible, bro.
Yeah. So Anthony Joshua's coming up. So we haven't interviewed him yet, but I think we booked in for start of October. So 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Yeah, about 2 weeks. We're speaking to him.
Okay, in 2 weeks. I'm gonna watch that.
We'll busy next week. We'll be busy preparing questions and doing a lot of research, and the students will be working hard to think of questions to ask him. But yeah, so we've had lots of guests from a range of sports. I'm just looking now at my list next to me. We've had speedway, motorbike riders, boxers, jockeys, snooker players.
Snooker, what's that?
So like pool.
Pool.
Billiards, pool.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's snooker in England. Okay.
Who else? We've had Olympians, Paralympians.
Powerlifters and stuff like that?
Paralympians, so disabled, the Paralympics.
Oh, Paralympics. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you said power.
So yeah, we try and cover as much sports as possible. So yeah, you're a sports person, we'll interview you. So yeah, we've been very lucky to have a wide range of guests, and many more hopefully to come.
That's crazy. And when Phil was on my show, he said, well, it's kids. They can't say no to kids. But I don't know. I think it's something more than that. What is the whole, because you said you reached out to their managers and their agents. So the agent can easily say no because he's the agent. He's not the star. He can just be like, no. I think there's something that Adam Millichip does or something. How do you get these guys on the show?
Persuasion. So we do get a lot of no's. So a lot of agents and people will ignore us or just politely say no. But I think in our email or in our messages, we do state that we're the only podcast in the UK which is hosted by autistic students, which we are.
Nice.
We're the reason behind it. So I'll put that we're hoping by doing this, we're raising the awareness of autism. We're improving our children's communication. We're supporting the autistic community. So I think if it was just me and my mates from next door doing it, we would have no chance of speaking to any of these people. But I think because it's children, they're autistic, and we're doing it for a reason as well. There's a purpose behind it. The purpose isn't to speak to these guests, which kind of well it is, but the purpose is solely to support our children and develop our children, and we're just doing it through speaking to these fantastic guests. But so I think, having children, autistic children, and having a reason behind it definitely helps, and definitely I think makes the agents and the sports people say yes. So hopefully it continues anyway.
That's awesome. Do you think that as people get to know the show, as it becomes more popular, and then also, the other sports legends see other sports legends on the show, it becomes more kind of legitimized in a sense, and then other guests that you're calling would like say, okay, yeah, my friend Kirk was on the show last week. I'm down to go on that show. Does that happen as well?
Yeah, all the time, and that is one of the massive things that helps grow it. So, for example, Kurt Angle, after he was on the podcast, he put on his Instagram that on his stories that he'd just been on the podcast.
No,
so I don't know how I don't know how many followers he's got, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. So you think how many people see that just from him retweeting it or sharing it on his stories? We try and ask all our guests if they could tweet about it or post it on their socials. Some don't, but some do, and the reach that these people have is in the millions. So,
oh wow,
yeah, it gets out there, gets a huge audience, and hopefully, yeah, you're right. So, Kurt Angle's been on, so maybe I don't know, another wrestler might come on. We did get we have had a message from Mick Foley.
No,
I will. I'll send it to you after this. He sent us a message. Hasn't come on.
Wow. Message from Mick.
Hasn't come on the podcast, sadly, but did
send us things are happening.
Did send us a nice message. So we never know in the future, but at the moment he's not on, but he has sent us a nice message saying how much he liked the podcast, and he's got an autistic son.
Oh, nice.
So I think that's why he sent us a message. We're trying to get him on, but I don't know. We're struggling to get hold of him at the moment, but he has sent us a message. So things like that, it helps. So word of mouth and people tweeting and sharing their stories and sharing TikToks and things like that really, really helps, and helps grow the podcast.
So that's a tip for for a lot of podcasters that are out there that are going to listen to this. It's a numbers game, right? It's a hustle. It's a marketing has to be part of the play. Social media has to be part of the play. People getting the ball rolling, that's how it starts to happen. And people like Mick Foley, I mean, that's incredible. You guys will get him. I guarantee you'll get him. Mick Foley's a little different animal there. It's not just that he's busy, because these guys are busy, but he's Mick Foley. He's a little loose in the cannons up here, so you might not even remember he talked to you. So here's a crazy funny story. I was there's a little I forgot what it's called. There's a collector's thing here in West Covina, and Mick Foley was signing autographs over there. And when my son was like 5, I took him over there and we got a picture of him and got his autograph and all that. So you never know where Mick Foley's going to be.
No, I follow him a lot on social media, and I was in Florida a few weeks ago, and he was in Florida as well. But obviously Florida is a massive state. I think I was in Orlando, he was in Miami. So didn't go down to see him because obviously they're a huge 5-6 hour drive. But yeah. So I love to meet him and love to have the opportunity to speak to him, because he is an absolute legend, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's huge. Oh man, I mean, jeez. But you had Kurt Angle. I think it's the ball's going to be rolling. I think Jake the Snake's going to come on. I'm just prophesizing right now or something like that. But I think that the ball starts rolling. You guys do a bunch of wrestlers. You guys do. You got the sports people. You got the people football. You got cricket. You got all kinds of stuff. Any funny stories of a guest that you had on? Anything funny happen? Anything unique happen on for any of these guests that you had on?
Lots of them tell their own kind of funny stories. I'm trying to think on the spot now. So none that sadly spring to mind, but lots of them have their own kind of unique stories and will share things from their past and funny dressing room stories from when they were in the dressing room with their teammates. So yeah, we do try and ask the questions. Lots of them are like pranks, so lots of quite a few is cutting the pockets out of trousers, and so when they put their money in their pockets, it all falls out, or
Wow.
stealing the car keys and little pranks that you get in dressing rooms like that. But no, nothing that kind of springs to mind. No, I don't know. Nothing that springs to mind. We do try and ask them what their favorite kind of prank was or favorite story, and some are really
Yeah.
funny. Some are brilliant. Or one actually, thinking of Kurt Angle, he told us one of how he fought Rikishi.
Rikishi, yes.
Yeah. And Rikishi's famous move, was it the stink face?
Oh, he he slams his butt on your face.
So what Kurt Angle was saying that just before, during the match, Rikishi did a stink face on Kurt Angle, and then only after the match, Rikishi told Kurt Angle that just before the match, Rikishi had really bad diarrhea, and
I had a feeling that was going to come out right now.
So,
my God.
And then 5 minutes later, was rubbing his ass in Kurt Angle's face.
He got the full service, my friend. He got the full service. I'm sure it's not for many people out there that have experienced the Rikishi situation there in their faces, you pro wrestlers that are watching the show. I have millions of pro wrestlers that watch my show, by the way. Actually, just kidding. There's probably like 10 people. But those guys have experienced the Rikishi stink face, and it is bad, I'm sure, as it is. But to have massive diarrhea 5 minutes before the show and to get the stink face, Kurt Angle got the special that night.
He definitely
did. Crystal Glitterbug has a question for Adam Millichip. Who were some of the kids' favorite guests is the question.
So Kurt Angle was definitely one of them. The students are big wrestling fans. Kurt Angle was probably slightly before that era, because the kids are 15, 16.
Yeah.
But we still heard of Kurt Angle, knew who Kurt Angle was. We spoke to Paddy McGuinness, and Paddy McGuinness is a TV presenter here in the UK. Big sports fan, hosts a lot of sports programs over here. So he was a big one. He's also a comedian, so he was very funny, very, very good with the kids. He's got 3 autistic children, so it was very, very interesting speaking to him. And the children asked him a lot of personal questions and got quite private questions about his family. Just looking, I got my list next to me here. Sometimes we deviate from sport. Sometimes we have a guest on who's nothing to do with sport, and an opportunity rose for us to speak to Lee Cockrell. And Lee Cockrell is the former president of Walt Disney World in Florida.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I actually reposted your picture with him in my story. That's awesome.
Yeah. So we spoke to him, and he was the former president of Walt Disney World, I think, for 13 years, between 2000 and 2013. So to speak to him about Disney and managing this huge corporation and managing Disney World in Florida was incredible, and hearing the things that Disney do to support the guests and the cast members and running probably the biggest corporation in the world was fascinating. It was amazing. And yeah, I was lucky enough to meet him a few weeks ago because I went to Orlando. I took my daughter to Orlando, and he agreed to meet up for a drink and a beer. So yeah, he was one of the students' favorites, I think, because the students are big Disney fans, love all the Disney films, the Marvel films, and everything like that. So to speak to him about the parks and the films and the rides and everything was a great experience for him. And also we spoke to Dr. Temple Grandin, who is American. She's autistic and a really big autism speaker in America and around the world.
She's a doctor and she's autistic?
Yeah, Dr. Temple Grandin. She's a doctor in animal science, I want to say. And she's autistic and and speaks a lot about autism and is a very good advocate for autism. So to speak to her, the students who are obviously autistic, speak to another autistic person who has done so much in her life. There's a film about her. If you search Temple Grandin, you can see the film and watch the film.
No way.
She's wrote a lot of books about autism. So yeah, she was another great one to speak to as well.
It's amazing that the level of entertainers, doctors that you get from the autistic community is incredible. Like we were talking about earlier, they have this intense focus. I don't know if you can agree to that, Adam, but some of these guys have intense focus in an area that we can never understand. Like we can never get to that level on some of these math skills or some of these, they can really take a subject and just go, deep with it. Right.
Yeah, 100%. And going back to Temple Grandin, I've probably not got this quite right, but she redesigned cattle farming. So like cows, how cattle were farmed and how cattle were slaughtered. And she redesigned the whole system in America of how that happened, and she was so focused on cattle and cows and how they were slaughtered, and it was very fascinating. And so that was her thing, that was her unique interest. And yeah, after this interview, if you just have 2 minutes and Google Temple Grandin, she's a very fascinating woman.
I'm going to put it in the chat. Temple.
Yeah, Grandin, Grandin.
Look at Temple Grandin. That's amazing. Just like Crystal says, that's freaking amazing. She redeveloped the whole logistic aspect of how cows are processed here in America. That is huge. First of all, people in the meat industry don't listen to anybody. They I think back in the day they even sued Oprah, so they have power over here. So like people like for Temple Grandin must be a freaking amazing person, number one, and a genius mind, because and it's like we said, she focused on that thing. The focus that autistic people have is second to, it's what we dream of having type of focus. Like I can't focus on anything. I'm like all over the place. I'm like a squirrel. I don't even know I'm over there. I'm looking at my dog right now. But these guys can focus on one thing only, and just make it so streamlined. I can only imagine the streamlinedness that has now to process a cow a specific way that Temple Grandin wants it done the way she wants it done, and the industry was like, yes, that's how we're going to do it from now on. That's crazy.
Definitely. If you've got a spare 2 hours, then definitely there's a film about her life, and it's an incredible film, and it goes through her whole life from being a child up until her mid-40s. But yeah, you're right. The focus that they have. We spoke to. It wasn't on the podcast. It was something else. But I spoke to somebody who used to be the statistician for Manchester United Football Club, and he could recall stats from the last 30 years of the football club. And I mean, just stats. For example,
30 years.
A random match, so Manchester United v Liverpool in 1987. He would know who scored, what time they scored, which end of the stadium they scored at. You could say to him, Manchester United played on the 4th of February 2002. He would tell you who they played against, who the captain was, who scored. Incredible. I can't even remember a soccer match from last week who scored. He was remembering every single soccer match from Manchester United's last 30 years.
Holy 30 years.
Just incredible. We did put a small snippet on the podcast. He wasn't a guest, but we did put a little snippet on the podcast. Can't remember what episode it was. But
what's his name?
Andrew. I can't remember his surname. I'll send it to you. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, that's crazy. Statistician.
Andrew somebody.
30 years of soccer statistics. We're talking about statistics, numbers. We're talking about deep numbers here, all these things that these guys, some people get paid to do this, but they probably have a pencil like me and a piece of paper and they're writing it down and they got it in the back. This guy has it all in his head. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. So he worked for Manchester United. I don't know in America. Do you have?
Oh, he
We
worked
have.
for Manchester.
So you
Wow.
work for Man United TV. I don't know if you have. Do you have like certain TV channels or certain clubs over there? We have like Man United TV and Liverpool TV. So he worked for Manchester United Football Club and was the statistician on their TV channel. So yeah,
No way. So they would
he was
just pop him
incredible.
in, and then he would go, okay, this happened, and then take him off probably.
Basically, yeah, he was incredible. So we did a Man United quiz, and I found the 10 hardest Man United questions of all time, and he got all 10 right.
You asked him those questions?
Yeah, we asked him. I
You put him
googled
to the test.
Yeah, I googled the hardest Man United quiz of all time or something, and he got them all right. It was incredible.
No way, dude.
So
I
you're
can't.
right. That's his focus. He was so focused on Manchester United and knew every single player, every single manager, every single game, every single result. That was his thing. He loved it, and that's what he spent his time doing. So yeah, you're right. Back to what you were saying, that sometimes these high functioning autistic individuals are so focused and so determined to learn a skill and to have a passion for something that they take it to the very, very, very minor detail and will learn everything about the subject.
That's crazy. Yeah, like I'm like Crystal Glitterbug. I can't remember what I had for dinner last night. I don't even remember how I got from there to over here to do the interview. These kids are incredible. They are high functioning, like you said, and it takes teachers like yourself, Adam, to kind of, you're with them at an early stage. You're with them at a young age, developing them, getting them to work and survive in society, and have a stable life, and also teaching them the math, history, and all the things that other kids have to learn. It's incredible what you do, my friend.
Thank you. It's very rewarding. It's a really, really rewarding job, and you go home most days very satisfied and very pleased with what you've done. And when you get that student to learn a new skill, it's hugely rewarding.
I know we're running out of time here, but I want you to talk about that a little bit. For you, there's no like fame in this. There's no like getting money in this. We've talked the whole show about how it helps the kids. What does it do for you, my friend? Your soul, your the way you feel at the end of the day. Talk a little bit deeper about what it does for you as just as a great human being that you are.
So it gives you a lot of positive kind of reinforcement. You go home, or I go home, very, very positive at the end of the day. It gives you very good job satisfaction. I'm sure there's plenty of jobs out there which are boring, mundane jobs that you go home, doesn't kind of fill your passion. But I think this, being a teacher, being a special needs teacher, teaching disabled children really gives you passion, gives you kind of fire in your belly to wake up and get to school and meet your kids. And I think what I enjoy most as well is you get to meet the families, because lots of times if you're in a mainstream normal school, you teach a child, they go home, you might see the parents occasionally at the school gates or at parents' evenings or something like that. But because the students do have a huge range of needs, you're speaking to the parents most days, you're speaking to doctors and the physios and the therapists. So you get to know the whole family, the whole friends. You get to meet the parents sometimes on a daily basis. You're phoning parents regularly. So yeah, you don't just get to meet the child, you get to meet the whole family, you get to meet the brothers, the sisters, you get to know the family and the students really, really well. And as I said, the students come to us at the age of 4 and they leave us when they're 18, 19. So you get to know them for 14, 15 years. Yes, you won't have that same student in your class all that time, but you might have them for a few years. You might have them again a few years later. So you really, really get to know them as a person and get to know the families and watch the family grow and benefit from your support as a teacher, but also your support as a whole school. So, yeah, it's very different to, I know you have elementary schools where they leave when they're 10, 11 and then go up into high school. But yeah, our students are with us for 14, 15, 16 years of their life. So yeah, you really, really get to know the student, and it's really sad when they leave. So when they reach 18 and 19 and they leave, that's really, really sad and really upsetting. But yeah, it's very, very special, very magical, and it does definitely give you a very warm, positive feeling most of the time. Sometimes you go home and it's been a dreadful day, That does
Oh,
happen.
I'm sure. It's stressful, bro. You're dealing with a lot of stuff. You're meeting the whole ecosystem, the whole support system that a child like that needs, the families, the doctors. You're part of that. You guys are coming together and creating this whole ecosystem, this support unit that supports them. It's incredible what you guys do.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a huge team of people. We have lots of staff, and we have lots of teaching assistants and support staff in classes that help hugely as well. So it's not just the teachers. There's obviously all the staff in school, right down to the cleaners and everything, the dinner ladies and everything. So it's a huge amount of effort and support that goes into teaching these students, but it's definitely rewarding.
My friend, we are completely out of time, but I want to thank you for coming on the show. Mr. Adam Millichip, a teacher from the UK. He is an incredible, I mentioned hero. If you guys think he's a hero, put a fire in the chat. Put a big fire, blazing fire for this man. What he does for these kids, it inspires them, it inspires me, it inspires us. Adam Millichip, thank you so much for coming on the show. TWS Sports is the name of the show. TWS Sports Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere there are podcasts. You can find the TWS Sports Podcast. It's an amazing show, and it's full of stars, full of sports legends, soccer, cricket, wrestling, American as well as English stars. These guys are doing it, and it's autistic children, my friends. If you guys think you have a challenge in life, remember to watch TWS Sports Podcast. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the show. Thank you so much for supporting the Patreon level as well. We will see you soon. Take care.